Okay, let's unpack this. For most of human history, when we wanted to make some kind of profound change, healing, learning, transformation, we tended to focus our energy outward.
Externally.
Yeah, we chased external sources. We looked for teachers, temples, medications, or maybe some kind of extreme discipline.
Right.
But what if the single greatest tool for that kind of internal transformation lies in something far more accessible,
Cool.
something you already do, maybe incorrectly, every single night?
It's a really compelling idea, isn't it? And what if that totally natural state sleep is just fundamentally misunderstood by the modern world?
Exactly.
Because our sources today, they really argue that most of us are just, well, we're entertaining our tensions. We're not actually resolving them.
We're not resolving them at all. And that's why today we are diving deep into a systematic and pretty profound technique. It's often referred to as dynamic sleep or even psychic sleep.
A technique systematically laid out in the ancient tantras and known today as Yoga Nidra.
That's the one.
And I have to say, our listener has compiled an exceptional stack of material here. We're moving from the historical origins revealed by the technique's modern founder, Swami Satchidananda Saraswati, all the way through to detailed modern scientific investigations. We're talking EEG mapping, PE scans, clinical trials on things like hypertension and chronic pain.
Yeah, the scope is huge.
Yes.
So the mission for this deep dive is really to understand the mechanics of this technique. The core claim, the big idea, is that Yoga Nidra is this deliberate, systematic structure for inducing, complete relaxation.
Physical, mental, and emotional relaxation.
Exactly. All by intentionally maintaining awareness right at that threshold state, that little sliver of space between full sleep and being wide awake.
And I think we have to start right there. We have to clarify that fundamental distinction because the word relaxation is it's so corrupted today.
Oh, completely. The material makes it crystal clear. If you are collapsing in an easy chair or grabbing a glass of wine, switching on Netflix or just scrolling through your phone, that is not relaxation.
No, that is sensory diversion. It's avoidance, really.
It's just a distraction.
True, absolute relaxation, according to the science, it actually requires conscious effort. It requires you to maintain a state of awareness while you're simultaneously resting the body and mind so deeply.
So it's a dynamic rest.
It is. It's a state of dynamic rest where consciousness is deliberately preserved and, crucially, separated from all that sensory input from the world.
Okay, so let's start with the name itself, Yoga Nidra. It translates simply enough from Sanskrit.
Right. Yoga meaning union or one-pointed awareness, and Nidra simply means sleep.
So yogic sleep. And it's called psychic sleep because to an outside observer, you look like you're completely asleep, utterly still.
But internally, something completely extraordinary is happening. Your consciousness is actually functioning at a deeper, much more profound level of awareness.
And it's that specific threshold state, that borderline between wakefulness and deep slumber, that's the sweet spot.
That's where you spontaneously connect with the subconscious and even the unconscious dimensions of your mind.
And the sources, they really emphasize that the power of Yoga Nidra comes from this deliberate act of separation. If your consciousness can be divested from external awareness, that constant bombardment from the senses, and at the same time be divested from the dullness of unconscious sleep.
Then that detached awareness becomes incredibly powerful.
Right.
It's in that state that awareness can be purposefully used, whether it's for, intense bursts of creativity or profound emotional healing, or even fundamentally transforming your own nature through positive resolve.
And this whole concept of deliberate sensory withdrawal, it places Yoga Nidra firmly within the framework of classical yoga. We're talking about the 8 limbs of Patanjali's Raja Yoga.
Exactly. Yoga Nidra is defined as an aspect of the 5th limb, which is pratyahara.
Pratyahara. We often define that as just sensory withdrawal, but that feels a little too passive.
It is too passive. It's better understood as the intentional dissociation of the mind or awareness from the sensory channels. You're essentially pulling the reins of the senses inward, consciously.
And the beauty of the Yoga Nidra system is that it makes this seemingly abstract, really difficult yogic stage systematic. It makes it accessible. So instead of needing, decades of isolation in a cave, Yoga Nidra uses techniques like the rotation of consciousness through the body, feeling each tiny part in sequence to automatically and systematically just disassociate the mind from the physical body.
And once you master that dissociation, you're no longer distracted by the world, but you're also not being dragged into the heaviness of unconscious sleep. You are stabilized right in the middle.
And that prepares you for the next stages.
It does. It prepares the practitioner for dharana, which is concentration, and ultimately samadhi, or enlightened union.
Okay, so now that we have the technical context, let's anchor this practice in the modern era. Let's look at its origin story, the unique revelation that actually led to its systemization.
This is a really powerful anecdote. It comes from Swami Satyananda Saraswati during his time with his guru, Swami Sivananda, in Rishikesh. He had been given the duty of guarding a Sanskrit school where these young boys were being rigorously trained to chant and memorize the Vedas.
Okay, so he recounts that despite his best efforts, he would inevitably fall into this deep, heavy sleep every single night between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Just completely out.
And he was totally missing the boys, who would wake up at 4 a.m. to bathe and then begin their Vedic mantras. This apparently went on for some time.
And then later, during a large gathering, those same boys recited some specific slokas, or verses.
And what happened?
Swami Satyananda was just immediately struck by this intense, almost visceral feeling of familiarity. He knew the chants, but he was absolutely certain he had never read them, never written them, and definitely never heard them while he was awake.
Wow.
So he brings this phenomenon to the attention of the boy's guru.
And the explanation was, well, it was the turning point.
Absolutely. The guru told him that his subtle body, his deep consciousness, had in fact heard the boys chanting those same mantras many, many times while his physical body was in Nidra deep sleep in the room next door.
And that was the foundational insight, right? The light bulb moment for Yoga Nidra.
It was. I mean, normally we believe knowledge is transmitted exclusively through the senses. But this one experience proved that direct, profound knowledge can be gained without the mediation of any sensory channel at all.
Even when your conscious, analytical mind is completely shut down by sleep.
Exactly.
And the philosophical conclusion they drew from this is, frankly, massive. It's that the deepest sleep might not be a loss of awareness at all, but actually a state of profound, heightened potential.
Precisely. If we can remain so receptive while the body is in nidra, it suggests that deep sleep is a state of greater potential and awareness than, say, the superficial dreaming state.
Or even the waking state.
Or even the waking state, yeah, where the constant interference of our critical intellect can block that deep reception. So Yoga Nidra is built on this premise that we can consciously tap into this potential and use it as a tool for the accelerated evolution of the mind.
That brings us to why this practice is so incredibly relevant to us today. I mean, if the genesis of this came from an ancient insight, what do the sources say about its specific relevance to the unique stresses of modern life?
Well, the material points directly to the changing, accelerating pace of the last century. It's led to a catastrophic dispersion of human energies.
The dispersion of energies. What does it mean exactly?
It means we are constantly externally focused. We're perpetually multitasking. And this means the human mind has fundamentally lost its point of balance and harmony.
And this loss of balance, it manifests physically. It shows up as an epidemic of stress-related or psychosomatic disorders.
Right. We're talking about diabetes, hypertension, chronic anxiety, asthma, ulcers, heart disease, the list goes on.
And all of these illnesses are linked to this profound tension, this inability to adapt to the highly competitive, fragmented nature of modern life.
And the sources are quite clear on this. The fundamental international problem isn't merely financial or political. It is total tension.
Total tension.
Yeah. And the idea is, if an individual can free themselves of that tension, that true inner tension, they gain the clarity and the stability they need to solve their life problems, to control their emotions, and to fundamentally manage these chronic physical illnesses.
So Yoga Nidra tackles this total tension not as one single problem, but by sort of segmenting it into 3 distinct types.
3 layers that accumulate and reside in different parts of the human personality.
Okay, so what's the first type?
The first and the simplest to deal with is muscular tensions. These are purely physical. They're related to the body, the nervous system, and any underlying imbalances in the endocrine system.
So like chronic stiffness or just habitual physical habits.
Exactly. And the material suggests these are the easiest to remove. You can achieve that through deep physical relaxation and that systematic rotation of awareness we talked about.
Okay, so then we move inward to the more insidious layer.
Emotional tensions. These stem directly from the dualities of life that we are constantly suppressing. The conflicts between love and hate, success and failure, pleasure and pain.
And these much harder to erase.
Significantly harder because we actively repress them. We refuse to recognize painful or unacceptable emotions. And because we force them inward, they become these deeply rooted psychological complexes.
And ordinary sleep doesn't touch them.
Not at all. Ordinary sleep can't relax these emotional complexes. They're still simmering. They're still active in the subconscious, just fueling internal stress.
And then finally, the highest layer.
Mental tensions. These are the result of just excessive fragmented mental activity, that ceaseless whirlpool of fantasies, confusions, oscillations, planning, and worrying that just runs in the background all day long.
Right, the mental chatter.
That's it. And the sustained accumulation of mental tensions on this plane is identified as the underlying cause of abnormal behavior and psychological disease.
So Yoga Nidra provides a scientific, step-by-step method to dive into those subconscious layers beneath the thinking mind, to release those deep-seated emotional and mental tensions.
And allow that inner harmony to finally emerge.
So if the common person is, habitually tense, always shifting, chapping their feet, biting their nails, and they probably don't even have any awareness of this inner tension, then Yoga Nidra is the systematic process that forces a confrontation and then a release.
Exactly. It guides you systematically through dropping the outer tensions of the body, then the emotional conflicts, and finally the mental noise, until that true, profound state of inner relaxation just dawns spontaneously.
We have a really powerful real-world application here that illustrates the speed and the depth of this internal transformation. This is that amazing anecdote from 1968.
Oh, yes.
When the technique was taught to 600 hardened prisoners in a detention camp.
The initial state of that camp was just sheer chaos. When Swami Satyananda first arrived, the prisoners were completely disrespectful. They were laughing, hooting, pulling at his clothes.
He tried to start the relaxation practice, just asking them to do one thing: lie down, close their eyes, and not move.
But they couldn't do it. They couldn't be still. They were kicking, shouting, displaying just intense psychological and physical restlessness.
And the instructor only uttered 2 instructions for a whole half hour. Please close your eyes. Don't move your body.
Yeah, he was ready to leave. He was convinced the whole task was hopeless.
But the next day, the man in charge pleaded with him to come back.
Right, saying the prisoners had been strangely quiet ever since he left. He said he had, and I quote, cast a spell over them.
So over the next 6 days, he continued teaching them nothing but that systematic rotation of awareness, the relaxation from the top of the head down to the tip of the toes, from the outside in.
And the daily reports were just astounding. Their dispositions improved dramatically. Conflict and quarreling just dropped to almost nothing.
The crowning moment, though, came on the 7th day. A particular prisoner, a professional thief who had previously been the ringleader of all the chaos, he approaches the instructor with just profound humility.
He apologizes for his behavior.
And he asks for a packet of cigarettes back that he had previously gifted him.
I love that detail.
That's amazing. And the sources conclude that the secret to this rapid fundamental transformation wasn't, moral lectures or sermons.
No, it was simply the release of tension, the establishment of deep relaxation, and the resulting peace of mind.
And that created the necessary space for knowledge of truth and right behavior to just surface naturally, unburdened by all that internal conflict.
This profound transformation isn't just anecdotal either. It's mirrored by very specific physiological changes in the brain that we can observe during the practice.
Which leads us to the EEG mechanism. This is what explains why Yoga Nidra is so superior to just mere sleep or nidra.
Right. So if the average person falls asleep full of tension, jumping from a waking state to a deep sleep state, what's happening physiologically?
Well, they're transitioning rapidly from the beta state. That's the fast, active, waking, and often stressful brainwave pattern.
Directly to the delta state, which is the slow wave deepest sleep. They completely bypass the crucial intermediate phase where tension resolution actually happens.
And if you bypass that phase, those deep emotional and mental tensions we were just talking about, they're just compressed or, archived for the night.
Only to resurface the next day.
Which explains why so many people wake up feeling exhausted. Their tensions haven't been processed or released at all.
Exactly. Now, what Yoga Nidra systematically develops is a stable, persistent, intermediate platform of electrical activity. This is known as alpha wave predominance.
Alpha waves, they operate at a frequency of 7 to 14 cycles per second, or hertz.
And this platform is maintained between that fast beta wakeful state and the slow delta rhythm of deep sleep.
So why is alpha wave predominance the key to true relaxation? Why is it more effective for resolving tension than, say, delta sleep?
Because delta sleep is unconscious. Alpha wave predominance represents a state where the critical faculty of the mind is dormant, but, and this is the key awareness, is consciously maintained. It's a state of deep tranquility and receptivity. In delta sleep, you're unaware. You can't interact with your subconscious. In alpha, you are highly aware, but totally relaxed.
So this controlled alpha platform allows the body and mind to experience that deep rest described as blissful and highly refreshing.
Because those accumulated mental and emotional burdens have finally been consciously neutralized.
So since Yoga Nidra is designed to stabilize the mind precisely in this alpha wave platform, it puts the mind in an incredibly unique, highly impressionable condition.
The sources call this the hypnagogic state, or what the practitioners actually prefer to call the hypnotic state.
A state that's subject to neither waking nor unconscious sleep.
Think of it this way. You are on the borderlands of consciousness, and the key characteristic here is just unparalleled receptivity.
Right. The mind is compared to iron that's been heated until it's melting.
Exactly. When iron is molten, it has no form, and you can cast it into any mold you desire. When the mind is in this relaxed hypnagogic phase, it is formless, and you can impress profoundly creative and transformative concepts onto it.
And this leads us to the heart of the practice, and I would argue its most potent element, Sankalpa, the resolve.
And this is the source of that huge claim that anything in life can fail you, but the resolve made during Yoga Nidra is bound to come true.
I mean, that is a massive claim. It really warrants scrutiny. But the sources are clear on the mechanism. This isn't magic, right?
No, it's about accessing the subconscious engine room. Sankalpa is a short, positive mental statement that's impressed upon the subconscious mind when it is most sensitive to autosuggestion.
Okay, but bound to come true. That sounds almost magical. Are the sources suggesting this is more than just extreme focus? What's the specific psychological mechanism that lets a resolve planted in the alpha state overcome all the intellectual cynicism or critical analysis that might derail it later?
The mechanism is that you are bypassing the critical filter. Our conscious, critical, analytical mind, the left hemisphere, which largely operates in beta waves, it acts as a powerful censor. It rejects new ideas or self-statements that conflict with our existing self-image. But when you are in the deep relaxation of Yoga Nidra, in that stable alpha state, that critical filter is temporarily deactivated.
So the resolve, the seed, is planted directly into the vast, non-judgmental power of the subconscious.
Yes. And the subconscious accepts it as reality and then begins subconsciously reorganizing the individual's thoughts, actions, and energy to bring that resolve to fruition.
So it becomes a powerful, non-critical ally.
Precisely. The resolve is literally defined as the potential creator of one's destiny, whether the goal is modest like, say, achieving greater confidence, or something ambitious like achieving spiritual self-realization or becoming a successful leader.
So how does the Sankalpa practice actually work within the structure of Yoga Nidra?
It has to be used at two critical structured points. You make it at the very beginning of the practice, which is the time for sowing the seed.
Okay.
And again at the very end, just before you return to the waking state.
Yeah.
And that's the time for irrigating and reinforcing the seed.
And for maximum effect, the resolve has to be simple, concise, overwhelmingly positive.
And repeated 3 times with full awareness, emotional feeling, and deliberate emphasis.
The power of bypassing that critical intellect is so dramatically illustrated by the story of that professional thief you mentioned earlier.
Yes. So the instructor spent a long time discussing ethics with this hardened criminal. The thief was intellectually convinced that stealing was wrong. He confessed his sins, and he promised he would change.
But when the instructor came back 5 years later, the thief was still stealing.
He was. The intellectual conversion, the conscious willpower, had failed completely.
Because the intellect can rationalize anything, but it can't fundamentally change those deeply rooted subconscious patterns.
Exactly. That intellectual resolve failed because it was made when the mind was active and disturbed, so it never penetrated the critical barrier. But the outcome changed fundamentally when the thief attended 6 months of structured Yoga Nidra sessions.
So the Sankalpa, planted deeply in that receptive subconscious, it bypassed the critical layer.
It gathered the mind's vast forces, and the thief quit his profession shortly thereafter.
So if the intellectual conversion failed, the core lesson here is that the critical reasoning mind is actually the main barrier to profound self-change.
That's the one. And Sankalpa is the key to circumnavigating that barrier.
But the tradition advises against misusing this profound power.
Right. The purpose of Sankalpa isn't meant primarily to fulfill, minor desires or eliminate surface bad habits like smoking or nail biting, which are really just symptoms.
If you only use it for those small things, you're kind of wasting the potential.
You are. The goal should be to choose a Sankalpa that aims for holistic transformation, one that fundamentally changes your entire life pattern, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
And if that deeper transformation happens, the surface bad habits just automatically fall away.
Because the need for them disappears. It creates true strength and integrity in the mind's foundational structure.
This principle of the receptive, non-critical mind has also led to some pretty radical experiments in education. This is subconscious learning, or hypnopathy.
This is where we see some truly astounding data, again originating from those early experiments with Swami Satyananda. He conducted experiments not just with adults, but with animals and a young boy who was resistant to traditional schooling.
The method was pretty straightforward. He would wait until the boy was deeply and soundly asleep. Then he would just chant the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita to the sleeping boy. The next morning, the boy, completely unaware of what happened the night before,
Could flawlessly read the chapter.
Yeah. After just 1 week of this nightly instruction, the boy could recite the entire chapter by heart. He retained the knowledge without any conscious effort or recall of the learning process.
And they expanded the experiments over 2 years.
And the result is staggering. While sleeping soundly, this boy was taught the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Upanishads, the Bible, the Quran.
And instructed in multiple languages: English, Hindi, Sanskrit.
By the age of 21, the boy had never been to school. Yet he was speaking and lecturing in 11 languages and writing better than his instructors.
This spontaneous, effortless imbibing of knowledge at the subconscious level, it became the focus of intense research, particularly in Soviet-era psychology.
Which leads us directly to the work of the Bulgarian psychologist Dr. Georgy Lozanov. He developed the system of suggestopathy.
Lozanov recognized that the deep relaxation and spontaneous awareness found in the Yoga Nidra state could be used to dramatically accelerate learning. His techniques help students assimilate enormous amounts of specific knowledge without the strain, fatigue, or effort associated with conventional methods.
So what were his measurable results, and what was the mechanism?
He was able to demonstrate the ability to teach a foreign language in 1/5 of the time required by conventional teaching methods.
1/5. So covering 100 days of material in just 20 days.
That's it. It's exponential acceleration.
So how is that achieved physiologically?
Lozanov's key discovery was that deep relaxation, often combined with specific Baroque music, opens up the non-logical, intuitive right hemisphere of the brain,
While the critical, calculating, logical left hemisphere.
which is usually the main barrier to learning because it criticizes and judges and demands effort.
Becomes passive in that deep, relaxed state.
Exactly. So when the student is relaxed and listening to the teaching accompanied by this music, the information just bypasses the critical left brain and is implanted almost effortlessly into the subconscious receptivity of the right brain.
So the information is accepted without question.
Much like the Sankalpa, yeah. It's ready for effortless recall later. It is leveraging that hypnagogic state, turning the mind's inherent deep receptivity into a powerful, efficient educational tool.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Since we've established that the Yoga Nidra state operates in this highly receptive zone, we need to clarify what it isn't, especially since it sounds so similar to hypnosis. And then, let's look at what scientists have actually seen happening in the brain during the practice.
The comparison to hypnosis is unavoidable. Both practices start from a point of deep physical relaxation and suggestibility, and Yoga Nidra certainly passes through what you might call a hypnotic range.
But the sources emphasize a fundamental, profound difference in the maintenance of awareness.
Absolutely. In Yoga Nidra, the constant core instruction repeated throughout the practice is, do not sleep. Maintain awareness.
Right.
The brain is active and completely awake, receiving a higher quality of stimuli. This leads to what the yogic philosophy calls a sattvic condition, a state of purity, balance, and higher awareness.
In contrast, what's happening in clinical hypnosis?
In hypnosis, the subject is typically led into a deep sleep state where the brain is actively shut down and consciousness is confined to the subconscious.
So the consciousness is submerged.
It is, leading to a tamasic condition, a state characterized by dullness, inertia, or ignorance. And crucially, the therapist often dominates the subject's will in this state, which can potentially lead to dependency or obsession or a lack of personal initiative outside of the session.
So Yoga Nidra is a path toward self-mastery and personal responsibility.
Exactly. The practitioner maintains control of their own awareness, even as they disengage from their body.
And this maintenance of awareness while separating from the senses, it brings us right back to that fifth limb of yoga, pratyahara.
It does. The yogic goal is to systematically divest consciousness of all sensory associations to make it total and focused. And the tantric model details precisely how this sensory withdrawal happens.
So walk us through that systematic disengagement again. How does it relate to the physical experience and the subtle body structure?
Okay, so as the consciousness begins to withdraw and descend toward that sleep border, the senses disengage in a fixed, predictable, and sequential order.
And this corresponds directly to the five lower chakras, the energy centers, and the five elements.
That's right. So first, the sense of smell withdraws. This corresponds to the Muladhara chakra and the earth element.
Okay, what's next?
Next, taste disengages, which is linked to the Swadhisthana chakra and the water element. Then we lose sight, corresponding to the Manipura chakra and the fire element.
And after sight.
Following that, the sense of touch withdraws. This is associated with the Anahata chakra and the air element.
And finally, hearing.
Correct. The sense of hearing is the very last channel to remain active, corresponding to the Vishuddhi chakra and the ether element. So Yoga Nidra is that borderline state where all other physical senses have disengaged, but the auditory channel remains just minimally open.
Allowing the instruction, the guided verbal direction, to continue leading the practitioner deeper without any external distraction.
Exactly.
This methodical nature makes it just right for scientific observation. So let's look at the hard data from the PET scanner research that was conducted in Copenhagen, Denmark.
This was a landmark study. It moved beyond just recording brainwaves with an EEG to physically mapping which specific regions of the brain were consuming glucose. In other words, which areas were active during deep relaxation.
And what were the findings?
Well, the results immediately blew that idea that subjects were just drowsy or zoned out of the water.
Right.
The EEG confirmed they were maintaining a meditative state, and the PE scans showed a distinct sequential activation of brain regions. The mind was not dormant at all. It was strategically focused and very much awake.
So what did the activity map look like when subjects focused on the physical practice? The concrete stuff.
When subjects engaged in concrete tasks, like the systematic rotation of awareness through specific body parts, or when they were visualizing a summer landscape, the PE scans showed intense activation in two primary regions.
Which were?
The visual center at the back of the head, the occipital lobe, and the center for the tactile sense, touch, and direction at the top of the head, the somatosensory cortex.
And what's the significance of where those activated centers connect?
Well, crucially, these activated centers were found to be in contact with the limbic system.
The limbic system. That's the primitive, deep brain structure responsible for processing emotions, motivation, memory.
It is, and this confirms that Yoga Nidra increases visualization capability, and more importantly, it facilitates deep, powerful contact with and resolution of emotional tensions, exactly as the tradition claims.
And the mental activity was mapped differently during the more abstract elements of the practice.
Yes. When subjects were guided through abstract tasks, like experiencing profound contentment and happiness or contemplating the question, who am I? The Center for Speech and Language, typically the Wernicke's and Broca's areas, showed especially high activity. This suggests the deep mind is processing abstract concepts and transforming self-identity at a foundational level during Yoga Nidra.
And we also saw activity directly related to long-term memory.
We did. A subset of subjects showed distinct activity in the center for long-term memory formation and retrieval. And this corroborates all those anecdotal reports from practitioners who experience extremely lucid, long-forgotten memories emerging during or immediately after the deep relaxation practice.
This systematic control over brain regions, it points directly back to the yogic concept of balancing the inner psychophysiology, the nadis and chakras.
Right. The physiological goal of Yoga Nidra is to achieve balance between Ida Nadi and Pingala Nadi. Ida Nadi flows on the left side, conducting mental energy. It's associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest.
And Pingala Nadi flows on the right, conducting vital energy. That's the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight.
Exactly. An imbalance between these two, say, an overactive Pingala or sympathetic stress, is considered the root cause of mental disturbance and psychosomatic illness.
And Yoga Nidra is an exceptional method for balancing these dual energies.
It is. And when Ida, the mental, and Pingala, the vital, are harmonized and aligned, the central spiritual channel, Sushumna Nadi, can awaken. This is seen as the path to spiritual progress.
The specific subtle center most directly targeted in Yoga Nidra is the Ajna Chakra, the command center.
The Ajna chakra is situated right behind the mid-eyebrow center, the Brahmadya, and it corresponds to the pituitary gland, the master gland of the entire endocrine system. It is the core integrator of all mental, internal, and physical external activity.
So the detailed visualization and conscious observation during Yoga Nidra, it acts as a powerful lever to awaken this center,
Leading to enhanced intuition and what the sources call inner guidance.
There's a fascinating insight here about development, too.
Yes, this intuitive third eye capacity, which is related to the pineal gland, is naturally functional and powerful in young children, up to about the age of 8. It helps them operate from a state of pure intuition.
But as the child grows and the pressures of the external world take over, the pituitary gland assumes its autonomous role.
And this intuitive capacity often diminishes. Sometimes it even leads to the calcification of the pineal gland in adults.
So Yoga Nidra essentially provides a systemic way to re-stimulate this central command center and retrieve that heightened intuitive awareness that children naturally possess before the rational critical mind takes over.
So what does this highly controlled, alpha wave-based relaxation actually achieve in a practical physical sense? I mean, we've seen how Yoga Nidra restructures the mind, but the therapeutic applications cited in the sources are, well, they're profound. They cover everything from cardiology to pain management.
The first, and probably the most validated, is stress management and psychosomatic disease.
Right. Yoga Nidra works as both a preventative and a curative therapy because it fundamentally changes the body's neurohumoral reactivity to stress.
What does that mean in simple terms?
By inducing deep parasympathetic relaxation, it tells the body to dramatically release less of the stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. It sets powerful, inherent regenerative mechanisms in motion.
And this is absolutely critical when we look at cardiac health. We often focus on diet and exercise, but these sources present really compelling recent evidence that points to emotional stress as the prime physiological factor in heart events.
Yes. Evidence, particularly from institutions like the University of Pisa, strongly suggests that the actual mechanism causing heart attacks is often coronary vasospasm.
The spasm or constriction of the coronary blood vessels.
A sudden, sometimes complete spasm triggered by stress, and this spasm is a direct result of tension relayed from that powerful limbic system we just discussed.
So the limbic system activates the sympathetic nervous system,
which leads to the rapid pathological vasoconstriction of the coronary vessels. This is the prime factor in both angina, which is a mini attack, and a major heart attack.
And since Yoga Nidra induces deep mental peace and profound emotional relaxation, it acts as a rapid counterbalance.
Exactly. It inhibits that sympathetic overactivation, and so it rapidly releases or prevents that coronary vasospasm.
Which makes it an excellent preventative for the classic coronary personality.
The type A individual. Highly tense, ambitious, hard-hearted, perpetually non-expressive, and prone to bottling up their deepest emotional conflicts. Yoga Nidra forces a necessary release, helping them cultivate a vastly more relaxed emotional climate, which is protective of the heart.
And the clinical data on hypertension, or high blood pressure, is extremely strong.
Very strong. Studies like the famous Savasana study led by Dr. K.K. Dady in Bombay validate Yoga Nidra's direct effect on the vascular system.
And the results were significant.
Highly significant clinically. Yoga Nidra therapy, either on its own or as an adjunct, was proven to reduce systolic blood pressure readings by an average of 15 to 20 millimeter Hg.
And diastolic readings.
By 10 millimeter Hg in hypertensive patients.
Now, for anyone unfamiliar with those clinical markers, a sustained 10 to 20 millimeter Hg reduction is profound. That's often the difference between needing medication and managing the condition naturally.
Precisely. And in a high proportion of patients, this deep, sustained relaxation allowed them to significantly reduce or even discontinue their antihypertensive medication. The body's own regulatory mechanisms are just brought back into balance.
Okay, moving beyond the heart. How does Yoga Nidra tackle chronic pain relief?
The mechanism returns to the neuroendocrine system, specifically the pituitary gland. The deep relaxation and focused awareness of Yoga Nidra stimulate the pituitary to release its own potent, natural pain-suppressing compounds.
We're talking about endorphins and encephalin.
Yes, and these compounds are far more powerful than any pharmaceutical painkiller.
Do we have specific data on how effective that pain relief is?
We do. A study reported from Presbyterian University College Hospital found that after just 6 weeks of structured Yoga Nidra therapy, patients suffering from a wide variety of chronic pain conditions, migraine, migraines, arthritis, back issues, they experienced an average of 81% effective pain relief.
81%. That speaks volumes about the body's inherent ability to heal when the nervous system is just quieted down. The applications even extend to adjunct therapies in oncology. Yoga Nidra is recommended as an adjunct therapy for cancer.
Right. This utilizes the connection between profound relaxation and immune function, coupled with the power of visualization, which is a core element of the practice.
The work of Dr. O.C. Simonton is a famous example here.
It is. Cancer patients undergoing radiotherapy were taught an adapted Yoga Nidra practice where they would visualize their immune system, their white blood cells, actively attacking and destroying the cancer cells.
So the conscious direction of prana, or bioplasmic energy, towards healing, combined with the immune boost from deep relaxation.
It significantly increased the lifespan and the quality of life for these patients compared to those who are just undergoing conventional treatment alone.
Okay, finally, let's look at maybe the most proactive application, using Yoga Nidra to control future outcomes. The sources call it living in advance.
This is where the power of that receptive, uncritical mind meets strategic planning. The sources explain that worry is just counterproductive. Trying to mentally will a stressful future situation away only increases anxiety.
Willpower often fails.
But imagination succeeds, especially when it's implanted in that alpha state.
So the technique involves consciously directing the powerful, positive force of imagination into the future by mentally rehearsing every foreseeable detail of a potentially stressful event, like a job interview, a confrontation, public speech.
And rehearsing it as if it were happening perfectly. You're not just visualizing the success, you are experiencing the sights, the sounds, the feelings of the desired outcome with full emotional engagement during that receptive Yoga Nidra state.
You are essentially pre-programming success.
You are. You are plotting a complete course of action that leaves no space for failure. This transforms unpredictable outcomes into inevitable successes and makes life, as the sources describe it, a process of conscious enactment.
It's the ultimate form of internal goal setting.
It is, utilizing the receptive state of the mind to pre-program success and eradicate future anxiety. So, what does this all mean? We've traced Yoga Nidra, this profound technique derived from the Tantras, from its, accidental discovery during sleep, all the way to its powerful modern scientific validation as a tool for transformation.
We've seen that Yoga Nidra creates and stabilizes a unique alpha wave platform for the mind. It enables total physical, mental, and emotional detoxification and provides a quality of rest that normal, unconscious sleep just completely misses.
And its transformative power is centered entirely on Sankalpa, that unique ability to bypass the conscious critical mind and plant a powerful, life-changing resolve directly into the highly receptive subconscious engine room.
So whether you're managing a chronic disease, seeking super-accelerated learning, or attempting to transform ingrained psychological patterns, Yoga Nidra provides this powerful, intentional mechanism for enhanced awareness and profound change.
Right. And the research suggests that we were always dreaming, whether we're awake or asleep. The sources clarify that Yoga Nidra allows us to stabilize our awareness and become a detached witness to these constant internal projections by cutting off sensory input.
Which leads us to the ultimate point.
Since the deep mind is always generating these internal landscapes, and Yoga Nidra is proposed as the doorway to samadhi, to ultimate self-realization. Consider this. If the central challenge of human life is simply learning to be an objective, detached witness to your own internal experience, how much of your daily stress, your worries, and your emotional reality is actually just unconscious projection?
And if you can witness it objectively in the deep state of Yoga Nidra, can you not then consciously enact a better reality in your waking life?
It's the ultimate invitation to internal mastery.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat.